Get into it with Solomon Wisenberg, the Fox News contributor, former deputy independent counsel. We've got Andy McCarthy here as well, the former assistant U.S. attorney, and John Yoo, the former deputy U.S. attorney, Berkeley law professor. John, begin with you. I understand the distinction between an inquiry and an impeachment proceeding, and that you need this stuff in an inquiry to see if you can get to that next level. But I would imagine in launching today in a better than 6-hour hearing that it would behoove you to go, for something substantive or witnesses that carried weight. No fact witnesses, as we've been saying, and not a one who was relaying direct knowledge about some of these more serious charges we were hearing before, linking Joe Biden to the sun. What do you think?
Well, it seems to me that this hearing was mischaracterized as it was going to provide mountains of evidence. What you actually saw was a hearing that should have been held 2 weeks ago to explain why this inquiry has switched from an oversight hearing to look at problems in the way the Justice Department's been doing its job into an impeachment inquiry. So we didn't learn anything new factually, but I do think that we had a good explanation about the constitutional bases for switching to impeachment. Now, those aren't without doubt. For example, there are questions about, does the full House have to vote to launch the inquiry or not? That hasn't happened yet. Also, can you impeach someone like President Biden primarily for things he did before he was president, when he was vice president? So that's why you really need to see links between President Biden doing things now to perhaps obstruct justice, perhaps to slow down the investigation. Lastly, the Democrats kept complaining, we want to see more facts, we want to see more witnesses. Unfortunately, I think from their perspective, they're going to get their wish because that's going to be what's going to happen in the next few hearings.
All right. Let me pursue that a little bit more with you, Andy. Jonathan Turley himself said the House does not yet have evidence to support articles of impeachment, but opening an inquiry can set the stage for that. Can you explain the process now?
Well, sure. I mean, it's just like any criminal investigation. You never have, or it's very rare in a long-term investigation, that you have enough to indict, let alone to convict when the investigation first starts. But you have to establish that you have a good reason for conducting the investigation. And I think, Neil, part of what has you taken aback a little bit here is actually the success of the committees up to this point, which is part of why I thought it was not a smart move for them to call this an impeachment inquiry when they don't even have the votes to get a resolution for an impeachment inquiry. The committees were doing a great job. If you knew nothing at all about this investigation and learned today for the first time, when no one had heard this before, that the Bidens got $24 million in the space of 5 years for doing nothing other than being named the Bidens and having access to Joe Biden, I think people would have found that to be pretty startling. The reason that this seems ho-hum right now is because all that information has come out mainly through the oversight process with the Ways and Means Committee and the Oversight Committee, somewhat the Judiciary Committee. But the reason that people are not stunned by what we're dealing with here is because we've heard it for the last few weeks.
I get that. And Saul, maybe you can help me with maybe the inquiry process. I'm told that it allows lawmakers greater legal authority to investigate possible misconduct. But again, in looking for possible misconduct, you are looking for concrete evidence, right? So what kind of evidence do they need?
Well, they haven't gotten everything that they need yet from subpoenas. And the idea, which has constitutional historical basis, is that Congress is operating at the height of its power when it's sitting as an impeachment inquiry. The problem, as Andy, I think, indicated, and maybe Jonathan as well, is that there hasn't even been a vote yet by the full House to authorize an inquiry. And so if you go into court and you're trying to get a document and the Biden administration is claiming executive privilege, you might not have quite as much of a constitutional argument as you thought you would. But certainly there isn't any question in my mind that whatever you want to call this, and you call it an impeachment inquiry, that there is enough to look look further. I mean, the stuff that has been found is extremely disturbing, I think.
All right, so what you're saying, though, just to understand it, that there's enough there to warrant further investigation, to get bank records, to get emails, to link the father, or to go beyond that?
To go wherever the evidence will lead you. But one of the reasons, by the way...
But an impeachment, I'm sorry, so just to be clear, I wasn't clear. This is an impeachment inquiry. So obviously, it would be gunning for Joe Biden, wouldn't it?
Well, that would be the question about whether or not there is enough to impeach him. But the evidence wouldn't just be about Joe Biden, obviously. You have, we're all familiar with the email where somebody mentioned 5% or 10% for the big guy.
Right. And
And Bobulinski has said that that person is Biden. Now, you know, that actually conceivably in some settings could be evidence. It could be a co-conspirator statement. So, yes, you're looking at the possibility whether or not you should bring articles of impeachment against Joe Biden, but people are usually smart enough to cover their tracks about what they do. So you're going to talk to all kinds of people. But the point I wanted to make is this wouldn't necessarily even be needed. You wouldn't have this need to get this kind of evidence if the U.S. Attorney's Office and the Department of Justice had done their job. The stuff that we saw coming out yesterday and that we've seen coming out shows they didn't want any kind of inquiry of Joe Biden. And that is, that's a sad state of affairs.
interesting. So, John, when Bruce Nowitzki was speaking, the forensic accountant, a key witness, certainly for Republicans, saying there's not enough evidence yet to conclude corruption by the Bidens. And I get that. And to Saul's fine point, Andy, as well, and yours earlier, John, that's what this would be about, getting some of these records and others to see if there is, you know, with all of this smoke, a possible fire. But that's a lengthy process, is it not? I mean, you're going to get a push and pull on what records are going to be released. Will they allow them released? Banks that could be involved, actually from all over the world. This gets to be messy and lengthy, does it not?
Neil, once again, you're asking a good question in the Cavuto School of Law, which is practical, pragmatic questions. Maybe the best way to answer is to, and this is the way lawyers think, compare it to other things we know. So the first Trump impeachment was too fast. If you remember, they almost had no investigation. And when you compare it to, did Trump ask about Biden when he was calling Ukraine, is what we're seeing now with the potential for bribery much worse an offense against the American people than what we saw there? If you really want to do it right, I think we should take seriously Republican criticisms of that first impeachment trial, President Trump, and demand a longer, more thorough investigation. Let's see real witnesses. Let's see documents. That's going to take months. But we are moving faster here than the other thing you could compare it to, which is, as Saul mentioned, the U.S. attorney in Wilmington. He could have been on all of this. It's embarrassing to the special counsel that all this information is coming out of the House oversight hearing. And remember, we talked about before, the House oversight, now impeachment inquiry, and the U.S. attorney are in a race, in a way, to get to the information first and get it faster. And so far, the House is winning a race that usually the Justice Department should be winning.
Who has the edge in that race, Andy, and or by definition, first in line?
Well, it's not so much first in line, Neil, as it is who's got the better arsenal.
I got you.
And if you were actually having
But they don't cooperate. In other words, they're not cooperating with each other.
Yes, but my point is that the Justice Department has much superior means to conduct an investigation than a congressional committee does. And, you know, part of what Saul said before about the failure to order or the failure to get the resolution, ordinarily, a House committee is not like a grand jury. They have authority to investigate in their oversight capacity, but they can't conduct criminal investigations. In their impeachment capacity, they're actually looking for crimes. They're looking for high crimes and misdemeanors, bribery. Treason's not an issue here, but certainly bribery. So you would have a little bit more robust power on the part of the House, but it doesn't compare to what a prosecutor can do by, you know, plea agreements, the grand jury, search warrants, and the whole arsenal. So the fact that the investigation, as John just said, has not advanced in the Justice Department, I don't really believe they're actually investigating the Biden family influence peddling business in the Justice Department. But that's a willful failure on the part of DOJ to conduct an investigation, because they have much better tools than Congress does. And we see that Congress is doing, they've gotten an immense amount of very alarming evidence.
So, Saul, to sort of button this up, and if you can help me with this, and your two colleagues there know that I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed on this, but I just step back and try to get maybe that Peter Falk Columbo character that I'm probably the only one here old enough to remember, but that some things don't make sense. So if you're launching an inquiry, right, and you have no fact witnesses, none of them can testify direct knowledge to what Republicans had claimed about Biden, is that the best way to launch it? Or are you sort of saving that? Yeah, there's a possibility we could have Rudy Giuliani down the road and others who were directly involved knew about these investigations, but at this point we're not going to do that. Is that the way it would normally proceed? I know these are isolated and historically rare events, although impeachment lately has gotten to be a fairly common one. But what do you make of that?
Well, I think you're talking about, as I understand it, tactical political questions. So I don't know if this is the best way to go as a matter of congressional procedure, as a matter of politics. All I know is I don't think anybody on your show right now believes there is enough to impeach President Biden. But I think all of us agree that there's enough to launch an inquiry. Whether or not this is the right vehicle, that there is certainly enough, more than enough, to try to find out what we can find out. And again, I hate to sound like a broken record, but none of this would have been necessary if DOJ had done its job. I mean, you're talking about people who said you can't even mention person number one in a search warrant application or a subpoena. Person number one was Joe Biden. Don't even mention it. These people remind me of what the accusation was against the original Watergate prosecutors, Earl Silbert. See, I'm older than you are, Neil, about how they conducted the original investigation before Archie Cox came in. And so that's the world we've been left with here. So
to wrap that point up, Saul, in terms of getting new evidence, couldn't you find Weiss and some of the other players working on and dealing on the Hunter Biden thing and maybe expanded charges, that they're going to run counter purpose to each other? And I get they're separate trains, but this could delay both from proceeding, couldn't they?
Are you talking about the House versus DOJ?
Yes.
No, I mean, as Andy said, DOJ's got the power. If DOJ wants it, they're going to be able to move a lot more quickly.
But the House doesn't. Does that mean that the House doesn't?
It's going to be a slower process for the House. It's going to be easier to challenge.
So, John, you were going to say?
Maybe one way to think about this is that to open an investigation in criminal court, all you need to do is have something like probable cause. There's some reason to think a crime was committed. To convict, you need proof beyond a reasonable doubt. There's a huge universe between those two standards, the amount of proof you need. Right. All the House had to do was get over that first one. Now we're going to see if they can get to the other one. The other thing is, everybody can make this go away quickly if Joe Biden would just release all these financial records voluntarily, which he can do.
And he hasn't done that, Andy, right? And therein lies really the source of this anger and angst among certainly a lot of Republicans on that committee, all the way up to Mr. Comer, that they wouldn't be in this pickle if he had been more cooperative. But when they were originally asking for this, the administration was arguing it was like essentially a witch hunt, which is ironic because that is exactly what Donald Trump thought of Democrats going after him.
Yeah, but what's interesting about that, Neil, is that in 2019, when they began the Trump-Ukraine investigation, they did it on the basis not of a vote, but of Speaker Pelosi unilaterally authorizing the investigation. And the position that gave the Trump administration the argument that they didn't have when it was just a committee investigation, that the investigation was illegitimate because there hadn't been a resolution from the House. And lo and behold, what did you hear for these entire 6 hours today, that the investigation is illegitimate because they didn't get a vote from the House under circumstances where the only reason not to get a vote is because they thought they would lose the vote. They have a 4-vote margin, the Republicans do. They have a lot of skittish Republicans in districts that were won by Biden in 2020, for whom an impeachment inquiry even is a very difficult vote. So they're starting from the position that they can't even conduct a vote on a resolution because they don't have Republican majority support. That's a tough place to start from, and that's why I think it really would have been better to just continue this as a committee investigation.
So, you know, Andy and John just got me thinking, Saul, which is always dangerous. But that could also mean if you're requesting bank records and emails and all of that, and you're going to these entities that have that, they could claim, could they not, well, not cooperate because you're not a legitimate, this hasn't been sanctioned by the House in a vote or whatever. So, no, we're not going to help you. We're not going to provide the information you want. Could you envision that?
I don't think that's going to happen here. It hasn't happened so far. They've gotten some very good evidence from the banks. That's only going to happen. You're only going to have a problem is if the Biden family intervenes, like what happened in some of the Trump litigation, where Trump interests intervened when their accountants got subpoenaed and said, you can't do that. So I don't envision that happening.
All right, so wrapping it around, and we were skewed the political impact of this, and I'm glad we did, but we're circling around. John, months. This is going to take months. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it could take months. Maybe I would be surprised if it could wrap up by next summer. If you look at serious investigations like the Ken Starr investigation, the one Saul worked on, like some of the ones that Andy worked on when he was doing anti-terrorism, the really good, careful investigations, especially ones involving a lot of money, are going to take months and months. We're not going to see it end by this year, that's for sure.
Wow. Andy?
Yeah, well, that's part of the intention, though, Neil. I mean, let's be real. Biden is never going to be impeached. You need a supermajority in the Senate, and the Senate is in the control of Democrats, even though it's a small margin. So the reason for doing this, a lot of it is theatrical. A lot of it's about the 2024 election. And a lot of it is that the faction pushing for this wants to have kind of a parallel proceeding going on while Trump is going through these trials in the criminal justice system. So a lot of this is, performance and politics.
Saul?
Agree with both of these gentlemen. It's going to take quite a while, and nothing's going to ultimately come of it except again perhaps some more evidence, which we will all want to know. But it is theater, and there's not going to be a removal.
Saul, final word. Andy, want to thank you, John, as well. Gentlemen, much appreciated. I apologize for the length of this, but I felt it important enough to sort of separate the wheat from the chaff, what's real, what's not, and where it is going. And you did that brilliantly. I appreciate that.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.